do you believe that the Mavs can turn it around with only 8-9 games left to go in the regular season?
I mean, if we by some miracle make a play-in tournament, Kyle, I actually want you to stay on the camera real quick because I have some questions I wanted to ask you because we talked about this at the beginning of the season where I thought that the Mavs were going to go. Where did I say we were going to go if we were to make the playoffs this year?
I don't know, maybe like first or second round exit. Second round exit,
First
maybe
round,
the
first round exit. What have I been saying is our biggest issue since pretty much our friendship?
oh, you guys don't have a big.
Okay. What has been our biggest deficit this season?
Not having a big and giving up points.
I appreciate your contribution to this segment, and now I can proceed because these are just cited sources basically for my frustration. We've come out flat. We don't care. We're not rebounding. We're not defending. And it starts and it ends with Luka Doncic. I don't give a shit if you give me 60. I don't care if you damn near give me 100. If we still lose, what is that good for? Stat padding, MVPs, scoring titles? I give zero shits what you do with your personal career. You are a walking traffic cone. I don't give a shit if you're giving me 40 in a game against the Hornets when we should be beating them by 40 by itself. I don't give a shit if you drop 62 points, if that's ending in a loss, which it didn't. I'm just saying in general, just to talk about what Luka's been doing this season. I get it. He's been hurt. Kyrie's been hurt. Maxi Kleber's been hurt. Tim Hardaway's been hurt. We've had the injury bug this year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that has not happened. But when you look at a topical view of what the Mavericks are doing right now, it just looks like not a single person cares outside of Josh Green and Kyrie Irving. Those are the only two players that I have seen this weekend put in any types of effort. Luka started the game today 0 of 6, if not 0 of 7, and he only had points because he was at the free throw line. And you could see leading up to that second quarter, he just was throwing shit up, didn't care, not getting back on defense. He also received his 16th technical foul, which means he's going to be suspended for the Pacers game tomorrow, which doesn't help anybody, but here we are. You got to bitch about every single call. You got to complain to the refs. You got to throw a tantrum. You got to flail your hands with whatever it is that you do in Europe. Bro, you said it yourself. The league is harder than Europe, and you're still complaining. You are at the free throw line damn near 10 times a game, and you are still complaining that you're not getting enough calls. You don't ever get back on defense. You never move your feet in transition, and you never get back if you are in transition. You're literally why we're losing these close games. I could literally zoom in. If we had tape, if we were able and it wasn't illegal to go and like show you guys film, there's 3 or 4 plays in the first half that I could show you where Luka just absolutely doesn't get back. Doesn't get 5-on-4. Leads to a transition bucket. We lose today's game by 6 points. I just said 3 or 4 plays. Each one of them was 2 points. Maybe one of them was ending up in free throws. The point is, right there is a tie game. I don't understand. People continue to defend him. All of Mavs social media, all of Mavs Twitter. He's young. He doesn't understand the game yet. He'll grow out of it. He's giving you 40. What would you do without him? Luka's the only reason you're relevant. Congratulations. Once again, you're giving us 40, but you're giving up 30 on the other end. Yes, that's a positive net 10 for those of you that are going to come at me statistically and say that that's still a positive. But when you're not helping your team consistently, or you're putting us in foul trouble, or you're turning the ball over trying to be fancy with behind-the-back passes when we're down 15 points, I don't want it. I don't have any interest in it, and I don't care for it. Luka Doncic needs to seriously look himself in the mirror and say, what am I doing for this team? Sure, again, you're averaging a shit ton of points. You're second in the league in scoring. You're damn near averaging a triple-double. Statistically, great. We're still losing. Why are we still losing? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because our team just doesn't play defense, and you're the focal point. When you are the guard, you are supposed to guard either the 1 or the 2, and since you're a little bit bigger, sometimes you're guarding the 3. If you are shading a little bit to the left and someone kicks it to your man, you're not running that out. You're not chasing down a rebound. You're not boxing out. You're just flailing your body around. I saw a couple of plays against the Warriors on Thursday night or Wednesday night, whenever that was. And there were a couple of instances he's looking up at the ball. He gets pushed in he throws himself on the ground. And then he's looking at the ref. The play is still going. But he's complaining over and over and over and over again. This is a repeated offense. I'm tired of Mavs Twitter. I'm so sick of my timeline half the time I'm on Twitter when the Mavs are playing because everybody's like, Luka Magic. Oh, he's got 35. We're down 15 to the Hornets. Who gives a shit? What are we doing as a team? Next is Jason Kidd. I said that the hire was atrocious. I said that that was never going to work out. We, by the luck of the skin or the luck of the draw, skin of our teeth, whatever analogy, phrase you want to use, get to the Western Conference Finals. Congratulations. Everybody this year, they got to go back. They got to go farther. We get Kyrie Irving. We're going to the finals. I told Kai when the trade happened that wasn't going to happen. We've lost 7 out of our last 10. You're too negative. Kyrie hasn't been available. He's been dealing with plantar fasciitis. We're turning the ball over at a high rate. We're not playing defense. Again, Kyrie may be scoring 28, 29 points per game since putting on a Mavericks uniform, but since we got rid of some defenders, we have given up more points per game than we have in the last couple of years. Plural. Last year, we were a top 10 defensive efficiency rating as a cohesive unit. We completely changed that narrative. We went and we got JaVale McGee for I think $20 million, if not more than $20 million. He's getting DMPs. Is he going to go out there and give me 10 boards? Maybe not, but he can alter some shots. He's going to hustle more than Dwight Powell. He's going to maybe get some blocks. He can actually play the center position considering Dwight Powell shouldn't be a center because he's soft. I'm just putting out context here, right? This is what we're talking about. Everybody talks about all these players that don't do anything. Jaden Hardy isn't getting enough minutes. We're not playing Christian Wood enough. He's coming off the bench, and he's averaging 18 and 9. He's 4th in the league in scoring off the bench with 16. I think he's 3rd in the league in rebounds off the bench with 7. But in games that he starts, he scored over 20 points almost every single game. But Jason Kidd thinks he's better off the bench. Makes perfect sense to me, right? You're scoring more, but I'm going to put you on the bench. You're playing better, but I'm going to put you on the bench. For Dwight Powell, again, Jason Kidd is a horrible coach. I said that from the get-go. Last year, the team and the defense really carried us into a situation we should have never been in. And now we're sitting here on the outside looking in at a play-in berth. We were just 6th, if not 7th, just a week or two ago. Yes, the Western Conference is backlogged. Yes, it is stacked. Yes, it is tough. Yes, it is complicated. The Hornets aren't in the Western Conference. Michael Jordan wants to sell the team. Michael Jordan doesn't want anything to do with this franchise. The greatest basketball player on the face of the earth doesn't want anything to do with this dog shit franchise. And we can't muster up a win without LaMelo Ball or Terry Rozier on the floor. And we are completely healthy. But we're going to lose back-to-back games to one of the worst teams in the whole league. Yeah, that's 100% all on one person. That's 100% all on Kyrie. No, the team don't want it. Nobody cares, and the coaching is atrocious. I've had enough as a Mavericks fan. I hope we don't make the playoffs so that we can solidify the pick that we were supposed to send over to New York for the KP trade. Because if it falls within the top 10, we keep it. If it's outside of the top 10, it's theirs. I'd rather us lose out because we're just going to be a first-round exit or a first play-in tournament game exit anyway. Save yourself the embarrassment. Wrap it up for next season. Truthfully and honestly, I've washed my hands of this team this season. I've seen enough to know that they don't give a shit enough. They don't deserve it.
I knew you had plenty to talk about. You definitely went descriptive. There's no doubt about that. But no, Kev, I agree with you. Maybe not as descriptively, but in general spirit, no, I'm with you. When I look at this from obviously an outsider perspective, the way that I look at the Mavs is really, you could basically split this team when this trade took place for Kyrie. Because, Kevin, it wasn't that long ago, the Mavs were at least in an advantageous situation with their Western Conference seeding. They were top 5, top 6. They were going to completely miss the play-in tournament entirely in a good way, so that they would just go straight into the playoffs. They wouldn't have to worry about a potential play-in tournament situation, because you never know what happens in those play-in tournament games. You may be a high seed in the play-in tournament game, but you have 1 or 2 bad games, you may miss the playoffs entirely. And it seems to me, when that trade took place, it seemed like that was the beginning of the end, or at least the beginning of this downward spiral that the Mavs have been on. Because obviously trading for Kyrie is a big deal, But when we talked about this when that trade went down, this had the potential to be a double-edged sword. Granted, you're going to get a lot of scoring with Kyrie on the floor, but what are you giving up defensively? And with the way that it's looked, that defensive effort is just simply not there. And that's the double-edged sword part that I was talking about with the Kyrie trade. And when it comes to the Mavs and a potential play-in tournament situation, I'm not ruling that out entirely because as it stands right now, they're only a half game back of the 10th seed. And that's all that they would need to be able to get into the play-in tournament. But outside of that, I'm with Kev 100%. Even if they were to theoretically get into the playoffs, I'm not sold on this team going farther than potentially a second round. I mean, I think getting to a second round would be a miracle with the way that the Mavs have been playing recently. I think more than likely it would end in a first round exit. Kyrie would more than likely move on to greener pastures or at least a better situation overall than what Dallas is dealing with. And I think if the Mavs were to miss the play-in tournament entirely, I know Kev really focused on Luka and his, I think the criticism is warranted, but I would actually gear more of the criticism towards Dallas's front office because I think the way that I see it is I think they put the cart in front of the horse when it came to that trade. And with the way that Dallas had been playing this year, I think they got out a little bit too far ahead of themselves. And I think that trade was probably more than likely unnecessary because I think they probably went with more flash with Kyrie because obviously Kyrie's going to bring a huge scoring dynamic alongside Luka. But their overall roster just seemed a little bit more well-defined with Spencer Dinwiddie in the fold, Dorian Finney-Smith. And don't get me wrong, when you make the trade for Kyrie, you're going to have to ask guys to step up. And they were trying to get guys like Christian Wood, Reggie Bullock to step up. But, I mean, Kev, looking at this game from Reggie Bullock, the second game that they played against the Hornets in this back-to-back, bro, he played over 30 minutes. He scored 3 points. And Christian Wood got 17 minutes. He scored 9 points. And I know Jaden Hardy is very high with Kevin. Unfortunately, in this game, he only played 13 minutes. And I've seen Jaden Hardy. And when he gets an adequate number of minutes, if he gets around 25 minutes per game, he has potential to put up a solid 20, 25 point performance. He's just not getting enough burn. So there's a lot of different ways that I could analyze this. When it comes to Jason Kidd, I think if the Mavs missed the playoffs entirely, they missed this play-in tournament entirely, I think that his job is going to be on the hot seat going into this offseason. When it comes to Luka, I think that Luka is going to have to look himself into the mirror and try to find some sort of pathway forward to be, I would say, honestly, just more mature. There's really no other way that I can phrase it. The amount of complaining that I've seen from Luka this year has just been ridiculous. And look, if you're not getting calls, you got to get back on defense. I'm like, you could talk about it at the break or at a timeout with the refs, but when plays are going on, you got to get back on defense and support your teammates. And there's just been too many times this year where I've seen Luka honestly play lackadaisical defense, not get back. And honestly, I think the defensive effort has been short from Luka this year. So there's a lot of different ways that you could skin this cat, if you want to phrase it that way. But to me, just to kind of wrap this up, it really has been a team failure. I think the front office overplayed their hand with the Kyrie trade. I think Luka, despite the fact that he could score at will, I think his defensive effort has been shaky at times, and I think his overall attitude needs to be improved. And I think Jason Kidd, I think with the way that he's coached this team, with the system that they run offensively, it's very one-dimensional. It could easily be exploited with a defense playing pretty much just solid zone defense. And if it ends with the Mavs missing the play-in tournament entirely, and the Mavs are going to go through a pretty rough offseason. And honestly, I'll just leave it at that.